often think that there is this unspoken thing that really goes on within the communities, and it's really all across the board. I don't really think it's just one specific community specifically, but there's this thing where single mothers really feel as though God gave them a son for the primary purpose of the boy basically growing older and then like taking care of her and buying her this house and all these different things. And I think a good man would take care of his mother. I think that that's like, you know, any man, I believe that they would take care of their mothers. But I just think that to have a son and to say, you know, to have this philosophy, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and the belief is that, okay, I'm going to have this son and I'm going to pour into him. And then when he gets older, he's going to take care of me. And this is my way out, right? This is my way through the mist and the woes of life. And the possibility of not having a man, like he's going to come and fulfill those roles. And I think that absolutely destroys the possibility for this man to ever really have a family, because his whole life he's had these expectations that were never really he never really got to select. You know what I mean? It was like this expectation that was kind of placed on him. And so when you've done that for so long, you know, you're probably not really going to have the capacity or the desire to really be in a marriage. You know, especially if he's not, you know, especially if he's in, I can't even really say the financial aspect matter, but I'm going to touch on it just for the sole purpose. I mean, if he's not, and I can't even really say if he's not extremely wealthy, like you just take money out of it. Like, I think relying on your son for emotional support, for mental support, for financial support is wrong. And I think that sometimes mothers put these expectations on their sons, like, oh, he's going to buy me this beautiful house or whatever the case may be. And it's like, that's not at all the way in which that should go. And I don't believe that's how God ordained it to be. Your son is given to you so you can steward over him and help him become a greater husband for the woman that God has for him, for the life that he has ordained for them in their purpose. And I just think with so many young men, I see this all the time. They get caught up in that. And then I also think, what kind of pressure does that put on a young boy, right? Outside of, you know, the emotional and all of the that entire propensity. But like, when you just think about, when you tell a young boy, or when you tell your son who's 24 or whatever, he's working here, or he's 18 and he's working here, or he's going to college and, you know, he's pursuing his gifts. And what if it doesn't work out? You know what I mean? Life happens. Or what if he gets older and he wants to change and do something different? You kind of put this expectation on him to be like, okay, yeah, like, no, my son is going to take care of me. He's going to buy me this house. And then I think that really starts to put this pressure on young guys. And then they're in the streets and they're doing all these different things because they have this really innate desire to provide for mama. But it's like, whoa, he's not in the position. And I think that that's just really unfortunate. And I think that really robs a lot of women and partnerships within certain communities, because it's a hindrance, honestly. Like, and what role can any woman fulfill when there's already a woman's in his life and that role is already being fulfilled, right? So it's like you no longer really have the capacity to have a healthy relationship with a woman because you already got that with your mom. And so I think that it's a very sad thing. I think that because society just puts women at this hierarchy and we're infallible and we don't make mistakes and we don't deserve to be corrected and there's just no accountability into certain regards. I think that people have, you know, gotten on these podcasts, and some people obviously have gone to extremes, but I think a lot of that is rooted in the fact that women are just really held to this very perfectionistic standard in society, and we're seen so innocent. And I think that this also really leads to a lot of the abuse and underestimation that comes from these podcasters, because really there's this misunderstanding and this miseducation about what it is to be a woman. Just how men have emotions and we advocate for all of that stuff, right? Women are just as capable, right? A woman is just as capable of something as heinous as crime or as heinous as any other illegal activity or anything like that. Like, women could probably honestly be a little bit more barbaric because there is not an expectation for that, right? Like, there is this expectation for women to just be really infallible. So I think honestly, women can probably get away with a lot more than men ever could. And so I think when you have that, you have miseducation, you have information, it just creates this belief system in a lot of young males' minds, which a lot of people don't talk about. But I think about like young guys who weren't popular in high school, maybe didn't get their first girlfriend till college. I know we don't really talk about things like that, especially in the days of social media where there is little nuance and everything is black and white, just because we appreciate the simplicity of thoughts, and we no longer really appreciate intellectualism in terms of expounding upon the concept. It's like it just has to be either or, it is or it isn't. And that's kind of how we think a lot of times today. But when you consider that and you look at these young guys who sit on these podcasts and they say these things, you realize that there's a lot of inexperience, right? Like they don't really know what it is to have a woman in their lives, whether it be a friend, whether if they have abusive mothers or whatever the case may be. Like you're not familiar with that dynamic. So when you've never seen it, now you have all of these unrealistic expectations of what it's supposed to be and what a woman is supposed to be and what she's supposed to look like and what she's supposed to act like. And you don't really know. You know what I mean? So I think that the overall thing is that we underestimate women and we overestimate men. And yeah, that's the end of the podcast episode. I just wanted to come on and make that very interesting observation. I was walking today and I was just thinking about that and just how for so many young guys and criminality and things that they start getting into because of this pressure from the moms, that's not why God gave you a son. It's not so that now you have this male in your life to fulfill that role. And I'm not a mother, so I will humbly step back and realize that like, that's not, you know what I mean? Like I can't necessarily speak to that. I don't really know. Obviously, I have no experience. I have no knowing what it's like to even bore a child at this point in my life. I don't have children. And I also don't really know what it would be like to have a son, right? I know that that's a very beautiful, relationship and just, you know what I mean? So who am I to really say? And I don't want this to come off like I'm judging or even condemning you, but I do think that there's really something said about it because I just feel like there's so many young guys who never really got a chance to live life because they're enmeshed with their mothers and they're pretty much indebted to their mothers because their mothers really kind of play into this innocent role of I don't know. I just think that moms can kind of be a little manipulative, right? With the love and the overcaring and the overextension, because I think just as men are wired, they're going to want to reciprocate. I think if you love anyone, right? Love is reciprocal. You're going to want to give back to that person. But when you don't have the capacity to, then that really sets you up. And then you're not able to really live your life and go on and meet women and get married and have this, you know what I mean, lifestyle, because your life is really indebted to your mother. And I think that there's nothing wrong with doing anything for your mother, but I just think it's a really, really sad thing when mothers are expecting their sons to keep up with their maintenance or pay for their car and all these different things. I mean, if you're an able-bodied woman, you absolutely should be taking care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with help. There's nothing wrong with you know what I mean? If your son is in a position and he's able to do that for you, but I just think that the dependency on a child is wrong, period.